Under new rules, part-time workers who receive in-work benefits will be required to increase the number of hours they work. If they're unable to comply with in-work conditionality, workers risk being sanctioned for a set period. This is a further attack on the lowest paid workers. Over 6 million people claim universal credit. In over 300 constituencies, over 40% of claimants are in work. 700,000 lead carers of children have been hit by conditionality changes to universal credit, 340,000 of which are working. 91% are women, 27% are disabled. In-work conditionality is untested anywhere else in the world. The government has not undertaken proper impact assessments of these policies on workers, families or employers. In-work conditionality also has a detrimental impact on employers.
Now what we'd like to do is have every employee on full-time salaried contracts. That isn't workable in business sometimes. You just can't afford to pay people when you haven't got the work coming in. You're either going to give them a full-time job or you're not. You've got to employ them, you've got the cost of training them, and then they have to go off and look for another job because you're not pushing them up to the 18 hours that are required, or as it's going to be in the future, potentially 35 hours.
Speaking to employers about universal credit and related employment policy, part of which we asked them about their views around in-work conditionality. A lot of the employers were quite concerned about the policy. Firstly, they didn't really know about the policies. If we speak to businesses, we know that there's a lot of flexible work that happens, so often people will be employed on a part-time basis but be expected to flex up. So if conditionality rolls out, our employers were quite concerned that their flexibility would be reduced. Demands and expectations from the work coach and the employer might clash, and that puts both workers and employers in quite a difficult situation. Employers also voice concerns about the potential impact on the well-being of their staff if they're subject to pressure to look for work or to manage the demands of work with the demands of the work coach.
And the problem for a lot of these employees are they have to rely on public transport, so there is a cost for them getting to the job centre and a cost to get back to work, and if they're coming out of work to attend an interview, they've lost half or maybe a full day of pay. The idea of releasing individuals to attend work progression interviews with work coaches is counterproductive to both the employer and the employee, because it's actually taking the employee out of work to attend an in-work interview. If they're running a number of jobs, more than one job, and there's no main employer, it becomes impossible. They've not consulted me, and they've not consulted my peers. They've probably not consulted the unions either.
Trade unions were not consulted about these changes. For workers, the potential of in-work conditionality causes additional stress, especially during a cost of living crisis that follows a decade of austerity. Sanctions can cut incomes by up to £85 a week, with the average sanction being 11 to 12 weeks, triggering debt, rent arrears and food bank use. It's a downward spiral.
I've worked since I was 16. The cost of living crisis has increased over the last 10 years. Obviously, there hasn't been huge wage increases. For me personally, I claim universal credit due to leaving domestic violence. Like, I left the marital home with just the clothes on my back. So, I mean, I'm grateful. I'm very, very grateful. Without that, I wouldn't eat, but it doesn't stretch. You know, it's hard month to month. I choose peace over finance, so I'd rather be safe and my daughter be safe. I always keep thinking, like, if the universal credit stops, what's going to happen to my daughter and me? Where do we go? You know, I've got the biggest contract I can have in my job that I do, so there's no more that I can do there. But actually, this last 10 years of austerity is still affecting us. I don't think there's anyone that I know probably that isn't struggling.
The UK policymakers have focused on this work-first approach, which is basically about moving into any job quickly. Any job, then a better job, then a career. Now, the evidence base doesn't support that pathway. The approach that the UK is taking is an internationally unprecedented one, which really underlies the fact that it's really important that we are quite open and transparent about the new parameters that are being put in place. The fundamental driver of low-paid work, poor progression in the labour market does not lie with individuals and what they are doing in work.
The DWP's own evidence has shown that increasing in-work conditionality has minimal impact on earnings. It's time to rethink how people are supported to progress in work.
In terms of the in-work conditionality, it horrifies me, and I'm afraid it hasn't been fully thought through. The idea that you encourage people to apply for job after job after job, that costs us money, it costs us resources. We're a small business, I haven't got time to go through 50 CVs. I want the job centre to find the right person that fits the bill, who has the capabilities and can apply for the job. And I can then make sure that we take on the people that really are suitable for what we're offering. We need to be able to encourage people to have a choice about which direction their life is going in. Once you've done that, you will get your in-work progression. There's no need to sanction people. Just put them in the right job and in-work progression will come naturally. It needs a complete rethink.
Say no to in-work conditionality. End it now.